All right, so this is the big day.
Yay!
We are going to go over to Amazing Fantasy Comics, and we are going to interview the owner. So tell me, Cade, how do you feel?
Both sides. I'm very nervous and I'm very excited.
Yeah?
So it's that little fine line right in the middle.
I understand. And you have your questions ready?
Yes.
Yes. All right, let's go do it.
Okay, guys, we are back and we are at Amazing Fantasy Comics, and this is Mr. Carey, the owner of
You
the
can call me
shop.
Shawn.
So, Shawn, we have some questions for you
Go right ahead.
about your shop. Okay, so what inspired you to buy your first comic?
Well, my mom said I should start buying them for myself instead of her buying it because it was my favorite, was Spider-Man. We always bought comics as a family, so pretty much they would every Thursday just put a pile on the floor and I'd read them. But I got very interested in Spider-Man and learned to start reading at 4. So by the time I was 5, I was a very efficient reader. I was proficient. And I just continued with the love of comics, and so since Spider-Man was my favorite and I knew what day it was going to come out, I started putting my 20 cents on the counter for it. Right before they went up to 25 cents, which was kind of crippling for my little budget.
So that's how much they were, was 20 cents?
Yeah, that was, and I didn't realize they were cheaper than that when my parents were kids, and I had no idea that they still had all those old comics until I was 7, and, well, about 8 almost, I think 7 or 8, yeah. So they're in the back of the closet pulling all these clothes out, and then there's this box back there. I'm like, what's going on there? So I look, and there's these comics that cost 10 cents. I'm like, wow, you guys had it made. What's going on here? 12 cents. Why didn't you let me read these? Why are these sitting in a closet? What's going on, dude? You're not touching these. Took them and sold them, used the money to put down for a 74 Mustang, brand new.
Holy cow.
They got about half, I think, down for that because they had some very important old comics. And I had no idea old comics would be worth anything. I just thought they were something you read, and I didn't take care of any of the stuff. And I was like, light bulb, eureka moment. So from that moment, I just became a comic entrepreneur. So by the time I was 8, I was already buying at garage sales and buying extras of ones I liked and finding kids that might get into comics, and so talk them into doing it too.
Wow,
That's
very cool.
Okay, so what was your favorite comic?
Spider-Man by far.
Spider-Man?
And for me, it was like the only comic that really counted. All the rest were fiction, and Spider-Man was the real things.
Is Spider-Man still your favorite?
Yeah, I guess as far as characters go, but I'm more into the artists and writers now. I like what somebody can do with an otherwise useless character, some might say. One of the hardest characters to write is Superman, and one of my favorite comic writers, Alan Moore, has only touched that character maybe 5 times because it's such a challenge, but his are the best Superman stories of all. So it's really, for me, it's more about the talent behind the creations now that I've grown up and gotten my own business that's involved with it. I've kind of seen behind the curtain now, and so I see what is all involved. And it's not about Spider-Man, it's about who does Spider-Man. So.
Okay, that's an interesting perspective. Wow. Okay, next, buddy.
So does that mean Marvel is your favorite?
Well, again, it's more about the talent, and I would say as a kid, Marvel was definitely a different company than they are now. Back then, it was run more like a mom and pop shop, and they cared about their fans. Now it's just strictly business, and they'll drop or take a property if it's worth billions, and they could care less about the sentimental value for the most part. So I can't really say as a company I have an affection for them, but they are my #1 supplier. So as far as all publishers on a business end, yes, they're my favorite. As a fan, I don't have a favorite company. I have creators and writers that I will check out, but they could work for any company.
So as you approach your 30th anniversary, what would you say has kept you going?
The fact that it evolves every week. Every week we get a new shipment, and they're always on this front row, and each week is informed by the previous weeks that were out before that, and everybody's trying to step their game up, maybe take the lesson they learned from that previous week and put it to a new level. So for me, it's really exciting to see something new every week based on what's come before.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Are you planning a 30th anniversary celebration?
I would love any ideas, any suggestions on that. I'm trying, but that's one of my big stress points right now, is I would love to do something with it, but it's not a party kind of hobby in my mind. So you're dealing with an isolationist hobby for the most part. But I would love to do something, and we are going to do at least something. I don't know what as of today, though.
Okay. So cool.
So cool.
It appears that you only sell comics. Is this on purpose?
Yeah, well, we've done various things over the years. We started out with non-sport cards, and that was really big in the 80s, and then that kind of went into comic cards, the Marvel Universe cards. That was, at one point was 67% of our business. It was huge. And then Magic the Gathering came along, so we evolved into that, and we used to have the first real big tournaments of any store in Colorado. And we did that from 95 all the way up until about 4 or 5 years ago. But that market changed drastically because of the greed of the publishers. They started making certain specific cards that were so rare, they made every other card common. And so with everybody chasing 1 or 2 cards, there wasn't a lot of money in holding on to the other ones, and there was enough competition to where we weren't making up for the butts in the chairs. It was just filling the place up and not necessarily creating more sales. So we did away with that, and that was one of the better moves we've ever done in the card games. It was good to get in it when we did, and it was great to get out of it when we did.
Well, we noticed you don't have pops or
collectibles
action figures or...
Right, and I've done all that over the years to some success or another, but it is very trendy, and you tend to have to be 100% committed to something like that to really do well with it. So when we get toys, we take them to our Brass Armadillo kiosk. It's an antique store up west, towards Golden area. And so I've had that going for years, and that's where my toys are currently. Or if we get anything exceptionally non-comic, that'll go there. But yeah, we're trying to be a purist comic store, so when you come here, you have lots of choices of comics, and you don't have to dig through POP figures, pop figures, whatever they call it,
sure.
or toys or any of the other Chinese manufactured junk that you're going to be tired of in 5 years.
Well, and we really noticed that, I mean, because Mile High, which was, you know, of course, the giant of, you know, of Denver, I didn't want to take them there for their first experience. We brought them here because, well, I mean, we wanted it to be a real comic book experience, you know. So, yeah, no, we had a lot of fun, and your guys were super cool.
Very proud of my employees.
They're amazing and kind.
There's a passion,
yes.
and I'm sure you have seen.
We've definitely started to discover that. Yes, absolutely.
Why does the Amazing Fantasy Comics have an extra A inside it?
Because we can't copyright Amazing Fantasy, because that's a Marvel title. That's what's introduced Spider-Man. The final issue of Amazing Fantasy is the first appearance of Spider-Man, and that's what I used. I sold my copy and the first 21 Spider-Man to get the money to do this. So this is all self-funded out of my own collection that I bought, you know, at your age and younger. And
Wow.
2 years, and so. Yeah, it was a very hard decision to pay $70 for that first Amazing Fantasy 15 copy that I had, but worked out pretty well. It ended up selling for $2,100, and
Wow.
so, things like that is how I did this. And so, as a respect to Amazing Fantasy, and to have first in the phone book, and at the time there wasn't an internet, but I saw it coming. I mean, we knew there was bulletin boards, and we knew that kind of thing was going to happen. So I had that in mind. So it is a unique search term now, the 2 A's.
Wow, cool. Very nice.
It's very good to have it show up first in the phone books.
Yeah.
People be like,
Phone books were
what's
a thing
that?
anyway. Yeah.
Well, true.
Now it's an internet phone book or a news
Very
search, but same
true.
concept.
Very true. Yes.
So, personally, I'm starting with the comic world in my family. So what would you suggest we really start with first?
Well, you sound like you were drawn to Infinity Gauntlet and the Marvel Universe, so you've got a wide open field. Anything from there, if you like that enough and you want to see where it continues, there's Infinity Crusade, Infinity War, or if you want just a different kind of Marvel big scope book, there's Civil War. So there's quite a few behind you here on this wall. I asked if you could show it. Those are all books that reprint old comics, and so there's complete stories in all of those.
Yeah.
And any of the famous Marvel stories like Winter Soldier for Captain America, or some of the early Carnage and Venom, you can have all those in one book. And so that's where I really suggest. And as far as what you're into, I mean, you've got everywhere to go. You've got the whole world ahead of you. There's Secret Wars is another one. That's a really big one.
Well, and we actually are picking up the Batman Ninja Turtle series because
So
we
there you
had
go.
the first one. So yeah, he
And
showed
that's a
us
fun
the
concept that's
complete
only
book
of the
too,
last
so.
20 years or so, where you have the two companies crossing over to, well, many companies crossing over to bring their characters together for a limited time.
Right.
And those aren't going to be available forever, so you kind of have to get those when you see them if you want them, because those licensing deals are very short term.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so that might not be in print next year.
Interesting. Really?
Yeah, because it's two companies, DC and Mirage, and there's only a limited time where they're going to combine their properties.
Oh.
And so it's just not something they keep open infinitely.
I see.
There's royalties that have to be split. There's all kinds of things that have to be done. So it's usually a very limited partnership when they do that.
Got you. Now, a bunch of the guys asked me to ask you what's on your pull list this week.
This week. That's a good question. Right, Silver Surfer Black would be the first one.
I've heard of that.
Yeah,
Are these all of them here?
No, not all of them. Those are variant covers, which is a separate cover from the main cover.
Gotcha.
So over here is the front row. This is the new releases Wednesday. And we open at 11, so there's going to be a lot more at 11 a.m. than there are right now. So
Sure.
there's already a few sellouts.
Sure.
Spider-Man used to be one of my regulars, but I don't really even read it anymore.
Oh, wow, really?
It's just
Ouch.
something that I'll check in with once in a while, but not a real big deal. Gotham
it
City
builds up.
Monsters sounds fun. Frankenstein putting together his little monster super league.
Gotcha.
And King
Gotcha.
Thor definitely is the top one today. So, yeah, not a real big list, but King Thor is a future Thor, long after he's done retired from all of his superheroing. And
Right.
that's when it chronologically could be his last story. We'll see where it goes with that. Real good
gotcha.
writer on that.
Okay, very nice.
So, yeah.
Very
Those
nice.
would be what this week's would have. But there's always plenty others, and on this top row here are my recommendations for trade paperbacks and stuff that's been in print for years. So there's all
okay.
the way across. Usually separated by artist and writer. In this case, Neil Gaiman. You're looking at Sandman. Those are very famous outside of the comic industry.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
You don't have to wait on me here. We can help you whenever you want to take.
Oh, you're good, man.
Okay, so all of these down here, are these like more expensive copies or something?
Yeah, that's our premium case. It's gotten picked over today. It's a strange day to have you photograph it. We usually have that full, but we sold a couple out of there.
Well,
These are
that's
the more
good.
important issues. So, I mean, something that is real special has happened in these, and that's why people continue to want them more than a standard comic.
I see that Secret Wars all the time.
Yeah, that's the first origin of the black costume that becomes Venom.
Gotcha.
But originally it was Spider-Man's costume.
Gotcha. I see a lot of slabs of that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely one of the most slabbed comics, and it's kind of a tricky one because when they're only worth about $100 raw, it's kind of you're putting a large percentage of the value into slabbing it. You're basically rebuying the collection for 40% when you slab a book like that. So I recommend slabbing more for the 500 and up type value. But if you love the book, do it.
What is your thought on slabbing? Just me personally, I think.
Like I say,
that-
I think it's great for $500 and up. You know,
Yeah.
the books that are really old. If you're buying a $10,000 book, you're going to want it checked professionally for restore. If anybody's added anything to it, subtracted anything for it, it's really a good thing to have. Now, I'm considered a credible source for grading because I've been doing it for 34 years as far as my occupation goes, and longer, you know, before I was doing it for a living. So it's not an official slab because you don't have the CGC name and it's not hermetically sealed. But for insurance purposes, we do appraisals and you can use us as a source.
Alright, so last but not least, what does the future hold for Amazing Fantasy Comics?
It's a good question. I think our website will pick up even more as we continue to put inventory on there. I would like it to be more of an interactive website so that you sitting at home at 4 in the morning can order up on our order form, and if you wake up in the morning and change your mind, as long as it hasn't committed, you can go in there and change that. So I see our website being a target for when you are wondering when something's coming up and you see that it's going to be available, you can order it. So that's what I'm hoping to get something by this time next year, have that more smooth.
And you would want that to be nationwide, I think.
It is.
right?
I mean,
Yeah.
it's AmazingFantasyComics.com is already up and running. We do have some inventory up there, and we do have. It's being mostly used for people finding us to sell us collections so far, or at least offer us collections. So that's been a bonus.
Okay.
The sales haven't been up to what I would hope. You know, at this point, then I have high hopes. So
Well, we will definitely put all of your contact information in the link below.
Okay, thank you.
And that way people will know what your website is and who you are and how to find you.
great.
So, well, we would like to thank you so
So
much.
much.
Yeah, thank
yes,
you.
for your time
Sure,
and
I appreciate the
sharing
questions.
your, history with us. It was really amazing. We appreciate it. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, burning block out.
Okay.